The theme of this year's conference is engaging the private sector in the emergence process, which I think is very critical because the private sector is the engine of growth and should again be the driver of emergence in Africa. Now, we seem to be focusing too much attention on the big private sector, and we then realize that the small-scale enterprises in Africa generate 80% of the jobs created. So it's good for us to really look at that. And at the same time, look at some micro enterprises, family businesses, and even those that are done by the informal sector that we need to integrate into the small-scale enterprises fold with a view to making sure that we increase their productivity to be able to generate to growth and development. For emergence, we think it's very important for government to see the private sector as the driver and engine of growth, and at the same time, a major propellant of the emergence. So that's why we are trying to facilitate discussions. One, among the private sector actors in Africa, and between the private sector actors and the public sector to create effective public-private partnership that can be used to drive emergence. And it's really working, because you can see many of the private sector actors that came, many of the international financial institutions that came, the president, the ministers, and the directors in public services, and many other development partners that are trying to really see how we can use the private sector to drive growth and development and energize emergence, so that emergence will become a means to achieving sustainable and inclusive development in Africa. UNDP is doing a lot of things. One, we are promoting what we call the public-private partnership at the country level, at the regional level. Two, we are helping to create multi-sectoral platform that promote value chain production in each of the regions of Africa. And we focus on commodities like soya beans, shea butters, maize, cassava in terms of value chain, because it is in the area of value chain that you'll be able to promote economic diversification. It is through that you're going to promote industrialization. We are currently working with many African countries, including Ethiopia, Rwanda, even Rwanda, to promote what we call special economic zones, including in Senegal. And again, we have established a lot, we work with government to develop what we call industrial strategies, and at the same time, the industrial layout and parks that are currently created, about 6 of them in Ethiopia, and several other ones are being piloted in Rwanda as we speak. That's the way UNDP is working to do that. And there's a program called the Youth Connect, which we are using to focus attention to youth entrepreneurial development. There's no way you achieve emergence in Africa without focusing on the youth that constitute 63% of what we call the African population. So, and being the youngest population, the most youthful region of the world, we want to make sure that we develop entrepreneurship among the youth, develop what they call mentorship, and at the same time facilitate matchmaking, so that they can discuss among their peers to really promote inclusive development and at the same time inclusive market. This time around, we continue to preach what they call impact investment. We are working in all the countries in Africa to make sure that all countries, all companies have what they call double bottom lines, that it should not be focusing on profit alone. The impact they make on the society is important. They have to make sure they have good relationship with the communities where they are located. They have to make sure they have communities with small-scale enterprises so that the linkage between small and large-scale enterprises is well entrenched. We are promoting impact investment in all countries in Africa, and that's the goal, because without it, it will be difficult for us to really achieve the goal of leaving no one behind by 2030.